Picture this, a civilization so far ahead of its time that it gave the world inventions we still rely on every single day. Ancient China wasn't just a land of emperors and dynasties. It was a furnace of ingenuity, a place where brilliant minds cracked problems most of the world hadn't even dreamed of yet. From the paper in your notebook to the compass guiding explorers across oceans, so much of what we take for granted started here, over 2,000 years ago. And that's just the beginning. Today, we're diving into 25 ancient Chinese inventions that didn't just change history, they built it. Some of these discoveries were so groundbreaking they reshaped entire continents. Others were so clever they stayed hidden for centuries, and a few, well, they might just surprise you. Because while we often think of modern technology as the height of innovation, the truth is, the past holds secrets just as revolutionary. So let's uncover them together, one world-changing invention at a time. Now, let's turn the page to the very first invention on our list, one so fundamental that it became the bedrock of knowledge itself. Imagine a world without paper, no books, no letters, no way to easily record or share ideas. That was reality for most of humanity until ancient China cracked the code. The story begins in the Han Dynasty around the year 105, when a brilliant court official named Cai Lun perfected the process of making paper from rags, bark, and fishing nets. Before this, people wrote on bamboo strips heavy, cumbersome, and far from practical. Imagine carrying a single book's worth of bamboo. It could weigh as much as a small child. Or there was silk, light but so expensive that only the wealthiest could afford it. Cai Lun's invention changed everything. By pulping these humble materials, then pressing and drying the sheets, he created something durable, lightweight, and most importantly, accessible. This wasn't just a better way to write, it was a revolution. Suddenly, government officials could keep records without hauling carts of bamboo. Scholars could spread ideas faster than ever before. The imperial bureaucracy, once bogged down by the sheer weight of its own records, became more efficient, and education, paper made it possible for knowledge to move beyond the elite. For the first time, books could be copied and shared widely, planting the seeds for mass literacy. But the impact didn't stop at China's borders. Paper traveled westward along the Silk Road, reaching the Islamic world by the 8th century and Europe by the 12th. Along the way, it transformed every civilization it touched. Think about this, without paper, the Renaissance might never have happened. The printing press would have had nothing to print on. And today, even in our digital age, paper hasn't disappeared, it's still everywhere, from currency to packaging to the notebook you might have on your desk right now. Cai Lun's invention didn't just make writing easier, it rewired the way humanity stores and shares knowledge. From bamboo to bytes, paper was the first step in a chain of innovations that brought us the modern world. And to think, it all started with rags and bark. Now, speaking of spreading ideas, let's move to another game-changer, one that took knowledge sharing to an entirely new level. Now, let's step into another chapter of innovation, one that turned the written word into a force that could reach millions. If paper was the canvas, then printing was the brush that painted knowledge across the world. Here's how ancient China took the next leap in spreading ideas. The story begins with woodblock printing, which emerged during the Tang Dynasty around the 7th century. Picture this, artisans would carefully carve characters and images into blocks of wood, ink the surface, and press it onto paper. It was a laborious process, but it worked. The earliest surviving printed book, a Buddhist text called the Diamond Sutra, dated to the year 868. Imagine the patience required, each page painstakingly carved by hand. Yet, this method allowed sacred texts, calendars, and even poetry to be reproduced on a scale never seen before. But the real revolution came 4 centuries later, during the Song Dynasty, with a man named Bai Sheng. Frustrated by the limitations of woodblocks, where a single error could ruin an entire block, he invented movable type. Instead of carving whole pages, Bai Sheng created individual clay characters that could be rearranged and reused. Think of it like a puzzle. Each piece could be swapped out, making corrections and updates effortless. This wasn't just an improvement, it was a paradigm shift. Suddenly, printing became faster, more flexible, and far more efficient. Now you might be wondering, why isn't Bai Sheng as famous as Johannes Gutenberg, who pioneered movable type in Europe centuries later? Here's the twist. While Gutenberg's metal type certainly had its advantages like durability, Bai Sheng's invention came first. The difference, China's writing system with its thousands of characters, made widespread adoption tricky. In contrast, Europe's alphabets with just a few dozen letters were a perfect fit for Gutenberg's press. But let's be clear, the concept of movable type. That credit goes to Bai Sheng. The impact of printing in China was profound. Books became cheaper and more accessible, fueling education and bureaucracy. Confucian classics, once reserved for elites, could now be studied by aspiring scholars across the empire. And beyond China's borders, printing techniques traveled west, influencing cultures and laying groundwork for the global spread of knowledge. But here's what's truly remarkable. Printing didn't just preserve culture, it safeguarded it. Think of the countless texts that survived because they could be copied and distributed. From ancient philosophies to scientific treatises, printing ensured ideas outlived their creators. And today, whether it's a paperback or an ebook, we're still building on that legacy. From woodblocks to clay type, China's printing innovations didn't just share words, they shaped civilizations. And speaking of shaping the world, our next invention didn't just change how we communicate, it changed how we conquer. Now, let's turn the page to an invention that quite literally exploded onto the scene: gunpowder. What began as an alchemist's failed quest for immortality became one of history's most game-changing discoveries. Imagine this: 9th century China, where scholars mixing potions in search of eternal life stumbled upon a volatile combination: saltpeter, charcoal, and sulfur. The result, a substance that would redefine power, celebration, and warfare forever. At first, gunpowder was more spectacle than weapon. The Tang dynasty used it for fireworks, turning the night sky into a canvas of light and sound during festivals. These early pyrotechnics weren't just entertainment, they were believed to scare away evil spirits, but it didn't take long for military minds to see its potential. By the Song dynasty, gunpowder was weaponized in the form of fire arrows, primitive bombs, and even flamethrowers. Picture a battlefield where thunderous explosions replaced the clang of swords, shifting the very nature of combat. The real turning point came with the invention of the cannon during the Yuan dynasty. For the first time, walls that had stood for centuries could be shattered in moments. Siege warfare would never be the same, and as gunpowder technology advanced, so did its reach. Along the Silk Road, traders and conquerors carried this knowledge westward. The Mongols, masters of adopting and adapting technology, used gunpowder to devastating effect, spreading its use across Eurasia. By the time it reached Europe in the 13th century, it ignited an arms race that would reshape empires. Yet, gunpowder's legacy isn't just destruction, it bridged cultures. In the Middle East, it fueled the rise of powerful Ottoman artillery. In Europe, it rendered knights and castles obsolete, paving the way for modern nation-states. Even today, the same chemistry that once toppled walls lights up our New Year's skies. A discovery meant to cheat death ended up altering the course of human history, both in how we fight and how we celebrate. From alchemy to artillery, gunpowder's story is a reminder that even accidents can change the world. And as we move forward, let's explore another invention that didn't just connect cultures, it guided them across uncharted seas. Now, let's navigate to another revolutionary invention, one that didn't explode like gunpowder but quietly redefined humanity's relationship with the world: the compass. Long before it guided ships across oceans, this ingenious device had a far more mystical beginning. During the Han Dynasty, around the 2nd century, Chinese scholars crafted what they called a south-pointing spoon from lodestone, a naturally magnetic mineral. But this wasn't for sailors. It was a divination tool used by fortune tellers to harmonize buildings with the Earth's energy and predict the future. Picture a polished bronze plate with celestial markings, a ladle-shaped magnet spinning to align with the unseen forces of nature. The real transformation came centuries later during the Song Dynasty. That's when Chinese innovators replaced the spoon with a magnetized needle floating in water, a design so simple yet so profound. Suddenly, navigators could trust the needle's steady pull toward the north, even when clouds hid the stars or storms blurred the horizon. This wasn't just convenience, it was a lifeline. For the first time in history, ships could venture farther from shore with confidence, turning coastal traders into ocean explorers. Enter Zhang Heng, the Ming Dynasty's legendary admiral. Armed with advanced compasses, his enormous treasure fleet, some ships stretching 400 feet long, sailed as far as Africa in the 15th century. These weren't just voyages of conquest but of connection, carrying silk, porcelain, and ideas across the Indian Ocean. The compass didn't just point north, it pointed toward globalization, knitting together distant cultures long before the term existed. And then came the ripple effect. Arab traders adopted the compass, calling it the floating fish, and passed it to Mediterranean sailors. By the 12th century, European navigators were using it to chart new routes, sparking the age of discovery. Without this Chinese innovation, would Columbus have crossed the Atlantic? Would Magellan have circled the globe? The compass didn't just change maps, it reshaped empires, economies, and even our understanding of the planet. Yet, for all its global impact, the compass never lost its magic. Even today, whether guiding a hiker's steps or a smartphone's map, it whispers of that ancient balance between science and wonder, a tool born from divination that still helps us find our way. As we move forward, let's unravel another invention that didn't just measure the Earth but detected its trembling secrets. Now, let's turn our attention to an invention so luxurious, so coveted, that it became the crown jewel of ancient trade: silk. Picture this: 5,000 years ago, deep in the heart of China, a discovery was made that would weave itself into the fabric of history. Legend has it that Empress Lizu, sipping tea beneath a mulberry tree, watched a silkworm spin its cocoon. Curious, she unraveled the fine threads and realized their potential. And just like that, the art of sericulture was born. The process was nothing short of miraculous. Silk farmers cultivated mulberry trees, the sole food source for silkworms, then carefully nurtured the caterpillars as they spun their cocoons. Here's the delicate part: to harvest the silk, the cocoons were steamed or dipped in hot water, loosening the threads so they could be unwound, a single cocoon yielding up to 1,000 yards of filament. These threads were then spun together, dyed with vibrant natural pigments, and woven into shimmering fabric on looms. The result, a material so smooth it felt like liquid, so strong it could hold its shape for centuries. But silk wasn't just a textile, it was power. For thousands of years, China guarded the secrets of sericulture with draconian secrecy. Revealing the techniques to outsiders was punishable by death. This monopoly turned silk into a currency of kings, traded along the sprawling Silk Road, that legendary network of routes connecting east and west. Caravans laden with bolts of silk traversed deserts and mountains, reaching as far as Rome, where the elite draped themselves in it, believing it was worth its weight in gold. Roman historians like Pliny the Elder lamented how silk drained their empire's coffers, yet demand never waned. The allure of silk went beyond mere aesthetics. It symbolized status, diplomacy, and even spirituality. Emperors gifted it to foreign rulers to secure alliances, while Buddhist monks used it to transcribe sacred texts. Yet, despite its global spread, China's grip on production remained unshaken until the 6th century, when two Nestorian monks smuggled silkworm eggs out of China hidden in their hollow bamboo staffs, breaking the monopoly and spreading sericulture to Byzantium. Even today, silk retains its magic. From haute couture runways to surgical sutures, its legacy endures. But perhaps its greatest triumph was how a single thread, spun by a humble worm, became the golden stitch that sewed the ancient world together. Next, we'll explore another pair of Chinese innovations that transformed everyday objects into works of art: porcelain and advanced ceramics. Now, let's step into the world of fire and clay, where ancient Chinese artisans turned earth into elegance: porcelain and advanced ceramics. While silk draped the elite in luxury, these innovations graced their tables and homes, becoming symbols of refinement and technological prowess. The story begins over 3,000 years ago during the Shang dynasty, when Chinese potters first unlocked the secrets of high-temperature kilns. Unlike ordinary earthenware, which crumbles under heat, porcelain required a delicate balance of materials and mastery. The key ingredient, Cai Lun, a fine white clay, mixed with petunci, a mineral that fused under extreme heat to create a translucent, glass-like finish. Fired at temperatures exceeding 1,200 degrees Celsius, the result was a material so durable it rang like a bell when struck, a hallmark of true porcelain. By the Tang dynasty, Chinese porcelain had reached its golden age. Artisans perfected celadon glaze, a technique that produced jade-green ceramics so exquisite that they were said to mimic the color of spring rain. The secret lay in the kiln's reduction atmosphere, where iron oxide in the glaze transformed into that coveted hue. Legends tell of celadon wares so flawless they were reserved for emperors, believed to crack or change color if exposed to poison, a testament to their mythical status. But it was during the Ming dynasty that porcelain became a global obsession. The cobalt blue designs of Jingdezhen, the porcelain capital, captivated Europe, where royalty treasured these pieces as white gold. A single Ming vase could fetch fortunes, sparking a craze that led to imitations like Delftware. Yet, no European kiln could replicate the strength and translucency of Chinese porcelain until the early 18th century, when the secret of Cai Lun was finally uncovered. Ceramics weren't just decorative, they were revolutionary. From the Song dynasty's intricate roux-ware, coveted for its crackled glaze, to the mass-produced blue and white tableware that fed global trade, these innovations reshaped daily life. Porcelain's non-porous surface made it ideal for food storage, while its elegance turned meals into ceremonies. Even today, the legacy endures, from fine china gracing royal banquets to the dental crowns mimicking its durability. What makes these inventions truly remarkable is how they blended art and science. Kiln technologies pioneered by Chinese potters laid the groundwork for modern ceramics, from heat-resistant tiles on spacecraft to biomedical implants. Next, we'll uncover an ancient device so ahead of its time, it could detect earthquakes centuries before seismology existed: Zhang Heng's Seismoscope. Imagine a world where earthquakes struck without warning, leaving civilizations helpless against nature's fury, until one brilliant mind changed everything. In the year 132, during China's Han Dynasty, the polymath Zhang Heng unveiled a device so revolutionary it could sense earthquakes hundreds of miles away. His invention, the seismoscope, wasn't just ahead of its time, it was centuries ahead of modern seismology. At first glance, the seismoscope resembled an ornate bronze vase standing nearly 6 feet tall. But its beauty hid groundbreaking engineering. 8 dragon heads arched outward from the vessel, each holding a bronze ball in its jaws. Below them, 8 corresponding frogs sat with mouths wide open, poised to catch the falling spheres. Inside the vessel hung a delicate inverted pendulum connected to the dragons through a series of levers. When an earthquake's tremors reached the device, the pendulum would sway, triggering one of the dragons to release its ball into the waiting frog's mouth. The direction of the fallen ball revealed the earthquake's epicenter. The precision of this mechanism stunned even the imperial court. Historical records describe an occasion when the seismoscope detected a quake west of Luoyang, the capital. Skeptics dismissed it until messengers arrived days later, confirming a tremor in what's now Gansu province, over 400 miles away. Zhang Heng's device had not only sensed the quake but pinpointed its direction with uncanny accuracy. What made the seismoscope truly remarkable was its understanding of seismic waves, a concept modern science wouldn't formalize until the 19th century. The pendulum's design capitalized on the fact that earthquakes generate both primary and secondary waves, with the faster primary waves triggering the initial release. This two-wave detection system gave the Han Dynasty a head start in disaster response, allowing officials to send aid to affected regions before full devastation struck. For over 1600 years, no invention would rival Zhang Heng's seismoscope. European scientists only began developing similar devices in the 1700s, and modern seismographs didn't emerge until the late 19th century. Yet, the core principle using mechanical motion to measure Earth's tremors remains unchanged. Today, researchers still study ancient Chinese texts to uncover lost secrets of the seismoscope's design, marveling at how a bronze artifact could embody such advanced physics. This wasn't just a tool, it was a testament to human curiosity. Zhang Heng, an astronomer, mathematician, and poet, saw patterns where others saw chaos. His seismoscope bridged art and science, proving that innovation thrives where observation and creativity meet. As we move forward, prepare to encounter another ancient Chinese marvel that reshaped labor and agriculture, the humble yet revolutionary wheelbarrow. Now, let's shift gears from earth-shaking innovations to a humble yet game-changing tool that transformed daily labor, the wheelbarrow. While it might seem ordinary today, its invention in 3rd century China was nothing short of revolutionary. Meet the wooden ox, a brilliant design attributed to the legendary strategist Zhuge Liang during the Three Kingdoms period. This wasn't just a simple cart, it was a masterclass in engineering efficiency, designed to carry heavy loads with minimal effort. Picture this, a single wheel positioned at the front, with two wooden handles extending backward for balance. The genius of the wooden ox lay in its weight distribution. By placing the load center of gravity directly over the wheel, one person could transport hundreds of pounds of goods, whether it was harvested crops, construction materials, or military supplies, with ease. Traditional methods required multiple laborers or pack animals, but the wheelbarrow slashed that demand in half. Farmers could move larger harvests faster, builders could transport stones and timber efficiently, and armies could streamline their supply chains. What's even more fascinating is how Zhuge Liang's design outpaced its European counterparts by nearly 1,000 years. While medieval Europe relied on two-man carrying litters or cumbersome carts, Chinese wheelbarrows had already evolved into versatile workhorses. Some models even featured sails to harness wind power, a testament to the ingenuity of ancient Chinese engineers. By the time wheelbarrows reached Europe in the 12th or 13th century, they were still cruder, bulkier versions of the streamlined designs Asia had perfected. The wooden ox wasn't just about convenience, it reshaped economies. In mountainous regions like Sichuan, where narrow paths made large carts impractical, wheelbarrows became lifelines for trade. They navigated tight terrains, connecting remote villages to bustling markets. Historical records describe convoys of wheelbarrows moving in trains, carrying goods across treacherous routes where no other vehicle could pass. This adaptability made them indispensable in both rural and urban settings, fueling China's agricultural and architectural advancements. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of the wheelbarrow is its simplicity. Unlike complex machines, it required no special materials, just wood, a wheel, and human effort. Yet that simplicity masked profound physics. The design minimized friction and maximized leverage, principles still used in modern ergonomic tools today. From construction sites to backyard gardens, the wheelbarrow remains a testament to how a single innovation can endure across millennia. As we marvel at this ancient tool, remember, sometimes the most transformative inventions aren't the flashiest. They're the ones that quietly revolutionize how we work. And speaking of quiet revolutions, our next invention soared silently through the skies, blending artistry with aerodynamics, the kite. Now, let's turn our gaze upward from the grounded ingenuity of the wheelbarrow to the skies, where ancient China's imagination truly took flight. The kite, a symbol of freedom and creativity today, began its journey in 5th century BC China as something far more practical, a tool of war and measurement. Picture early kites not as colorful playthings but as sophisticated devices crafted from bamboo frames and silk sails, designed to harness the wind with precision. The earliest recorded use of kites was by the philosopher Mozi, who built a wooden bird-shaped kite to study aerodynamics. But it was the military strategists of the Warring States period who saw their true potential. Imagine a battlefield where kites carried flares to signal troop movements across vast distances, or where they measured the width of enemy fortifications by flying them at known heights, ancient trigonometry in action. One legendary tale tells of General Han Xin, who flew a kite over a besieged palace to calculate the exact distance needed to tunnel beneath its walls, leading to a surprise attack that turned the tide of war. Yet kites weren't just tools of war, they became woven into China's cultural fabric. By the Tang Dynasty, kites had shed their martial roots and taken on artistic forms, from soaring dragons to delicate butterflies. The Qingming Festival, a time to honor ancestors and celebrate spring, saw skies filled with kites believed to carry messages to the heavens. Some were even outfitted with bamboo whistles, creating a haunting melody in the wind known as the harp of the air. One of the most captivating stories involves Emperor Wudi of the Han Dynasty, who allegedly used a kite to test the gods. He sent a kite bearing a scroll into the sky, demanding divine proof of his right to rule, only for a thunderstorm to strike it down, a moment later immortalized in court records. And then there's the myth of Lu Ban, the master carpenter, who supposedly built a kite so large it carried him aloft for 3 days, inspiring centuries of aeronautical dreams. What's remarkable is how kites bridged the gap between utility and artistry. They were the precursors to modern aviation centuries before Da Vinci sketched his flying machines. Chinese inventors were experimenting with lift and drag. Even today, kite-making remains a revered craft in regions like Weifang, home to an annual festival where artisans push boundaries with designs that defy gravity. From battlefield signals to celestial messengers, the kite's evolution mirrors China's own journey, pragmatic yet poetic, grounded yet boundless. And as we watch these ancient inventions soar, we're reminded that sometimes progress begins with a simple tug on a string. Next, we'll unfold another everyday marvel that sheltered emperors and commoners alike, the umbrella. Now, let's step out of the wind and into the rain, because our next invention didn't just defy the elements, it mastered them. The umbrella, a humble companion on drizzly days, has a history far richer than you might expect. Picture this: in 11th century BC China, the first umbrellas weren't just practical tools but symbols of status, crafted from delicate silk and flexible bamboo. These early canopies were reserved for nobility, their shaded elegance a walking advertisement of power and prestige. Imagine a royal procession where officials moved under a sea of vibrantly dyed silk umbrellas, each one hand painted with symbols of authority: dragons for emperors, phoenixes for empresses, turning a simple rain shield into a mobile work of art. But how did these luxury items become everyday essentials? The answer lies in innovation. By the Han Dynasty, artisans had replaced silk with oiled paper, a cheaper, sturdier material that could repel water without sacrificing beauty. They layered mulberry bark paper with tung oil, creating a waterproof seal that would inspire modern raincoat technology. This wasn't just a craft upgrade, it was a democratization of comfort. Soon, farmers carried collapsible oil paper umbrellas to shield themselves from sun and rain, while merchants packed them for journeys along the Silk Road. One surviving Tang Dynasty manual even details how to fold an umbrella into a compact bundle, proof that ancient inventors prioritized portability centuries before modern commuting. The umbrella's journey westward is a tale of slow fascination. When European travelers like Marco Polo encountered Chinese umbrellas in the 13th century, they were baffled by their mechanics. Early European versions, heavy and rigid, couldn't compete with the lightweight grace of bamboo frames. It wasn't until the 18th century that English inventor Jonas Hanway popularized umbrellas in London, though he faced ridicule for carrying what was then considered a feminine accessory. Meanwhile, in China, umbrella craftsmanship reached new heights. Take the legendary Fuzhou paper umbrellas, their ribs carved from a single piece of bamboo, their covers hand-painted with landscapes so precise they seem to blur the line between tool and masterpiece. Perhaps the most surprising twist, umbrellas doubled as secret weapons. Ming Dynasty spies embedded knives in umbrella handles, while king diplomats used them to conceal coded messages. Even Sun Yat-sen, the revolutionary leader, famously hid a pistol inside one during his campaigns. Yet beyond intrigue, the umbrella's true legacy is its marriage of form and function. Those oil paper techniques pioneered in China laid the groundwork for today's waterproof fabrics, from Gore-Tex jackets to stadium roofs. And let's not forget the parasols of Kyoto or the vibrant umbrellas of Portugal's Agitagda festival, all descendants of an idea born under China's rainy skies. From imperial regalia to global icon, the umbrella proves that great inventions often start with a simple question: how can we live more comfortably? And as we shake off the raindrops of this story, we're ready to uncover another object that transformed daily life, one stitch at a time. Shifting from the artistry of umbrellas to the precision of warfare, our next invention rewrote the rules of combat: the crossbow. Born during China's Warring States period in the 4th century BC, this wasn't just another weapon, it was a revolution. Picture a battlefield where traditional bows required years of training to master, their effectiveness limited by an archer's strength and skill. The crossbow changed all that. With its compact design and mechanical trigger, even a novice could deliver lethal force with pinpoint accuracy. The secret: a simple yet ingenious locking mechanism. Once the bowstring was drawn and secured, the shooter could take careful aim without straining their muscles, turning farmers into formidable soldiers with minimal training. But the real marvel was the repeating crossbow, or zhuge nu, attributed to the legendary strategist Zhuge Liang during the Three Kingdoms era. Imagine a weapon capable of firing 10 bolts in just 15 seconds, a feat unmatched by any other ancient artillery. Its magazine, a top-mounted box, fed bolts automatically as the shooter worked a lever back and forth. This wasn't just rapid fire, it was early automation. Historical records describe how these weapons rained down volleys on charging cavalry, their relentless barrage breaking enemy formations before they could close the distance. For context, European armies wouldn't develop similar repeating mechanisms until the 19th century, making China's innovation ahead by over 2,000 years. The crossbow's tactical advantages reshaped military strategies across dynasties. Defensive garrisons relied on it to hold narrow passes against overwhelming forces, while naval battles saw crossbowmen pick off opponents from ship decks with terrifying efficiency. Even the terracotta army's underground ranks included crossbow units, their weapons meticulously detailed to reflect their real-life counterparts. But perhaps its most surprising legacy was its role in leveling the battlefield. Unlike chariots or cavalry, which demanded wealth and status, crossbows were cheap to produce and easy to distribute. This democratization of firepower allowed smaller states to challenge larger empires, altering the balance of power across ancient China. Yet the crossbow's influence didn't stop at borders. Along the Silk Road, traders and diplomats carried its designs westward, where it eventually inspired medieval European variants. But none matched the sophistication of China's models, particularly the bronze trigger mechanisms excavated from Han Dynasty tombs, their interchangeable parts revealing an early grasp of mass production. Modern engineers still study these artifacts for insights into ancient precision manufacturing. From the chaos of the warring states to the disciplined ranks of imperial armies, the crossbow proved that innovation could be as deadly as it was brilliant. And as we lower this weapon back into the annals of history, we're primed to explore another invention, one that tamed the earth itself, turning barren fields into baskets of plenty. Now, let's turn from the battlefields to the fields of sustenance, where another Chinese innovation quietly transformed civilization not with force but with food. Meet the seed drill, a humble yet groundbreaking invention credited to the agricultural pioneer Zhao Guo in the 2nd century BCE. At first glance, it might seem like a simple tool, but its impact was nothing short of revolutionary. Imagine ancient farmers bending over their fields, scattering seeds by hand, a method as old as agriculture itself, but wildly inefficient. Seeds would clump together or scatter unevenly, leading to wasted crops and backbreaking labor to thin out overcrowded patches. The seed drill changed everything. Zhao Guo's design was elegantly practical. Picture a wooden frame with a series of tubes or funnels attached, each positioned to drop seeds at precise intervals into furrows plowed by an ox-drawn plow. This ensured every seed was planted at the ideal depth and spacing, eliminating waste and maximizing yield, but the real genius lay in its row planting system. By arranging crops in neat, evenly spaced lines, the seed drill allowed farmers to weed and water more efficiently, while sunlight and nutrients were distributed more evenly among the plants. For the first time in history, agriculture could be both systematic and scalable. The results were staggering. Historical records from the Han Dynasty note that fields using the seed drill produced up to 3 times more grain than those sown by hand. This wasn't just a minor improvement, it was a quantum leap in food production. In a civilization where crop failures could mean famine, the seed drill became a lifeline, stabilizing food supplies and supporting population growth. And because it reduced the labor needed for planting, farmers could cultivate larger areas with fewer workers, freeing up hands for other vital tasks like irrigation or silk production. What's often overlooked is how this invention democratized farming. Before the seed drill, only wealthy landowners could afford the large workforce needed to sow fields manually. But Zhao Guo's tool leveled the playing field, allowing small-scale farmers to compete with larger estates. The ripple effects were profound. Surplus grain fueled trade along the Silk Road, while stable harvests strengthened the Han Dynasty's economy and military. Even the design's durability, crafted from local wood and requiring no complex maintenance, made it accessible to remote villages. Centuries later, European agriculturalists would hail the seed drill as a marvel of the Industrial Revolution. Yet China had perfected it nearly 2,000 years earlier. Archaeologists have found Han-era pottery models depicting farmers using these devices, proving their widespread adoption. Today, modern seed drills still operate on the same core principles, a testament to Zhao Guo's timeless ingenuity. From warfare to agriculture, ancient China's innovations weren't just about invention, they were about solving real human challenges. And as we leave the fertile rows of Han Dynasty fields, we're ready to uncover another engineering feat, one that bridged the impossible quite literally across China's treacherous landscapes. Moving from the orderly rows of farmlands to the rugged cliffs of Sichuan, we encounter another marvel of ancient Chinese engineering, one that defied gravity itself. Here in the 3rd century BCE, a visionary engineer named Li Bing tackled one of nature's greatest challenges: how to connect communities separated by sheer, impassable gorges. His solution, the world's earliest known suspension bridges, woven not from steel or stone, but from bamboo, a material as flexible as it was strong. Picture the landscape of ancient Sichuan, towering cliffs, raging rivers, and narrow valleys where trade routes were often blocked by nature's obstacles. Before Lai Bing's innovation, crossing these gaps meant dangerous detours or precarious rope and plank bridges that swayed violently underfoot. But his bamboo cable bridges changed the game. Using the province's abundant bamboo, Lai Bing's team split the stalks into strips, twisted them into thick cables, and anchored them securely to stone piers carved into the cliffs. The result was a stable, lightweight walkway that could span distances previously thought unbridgeable. The engineering behind these bridges was astonishingly sophisticated. Bamboo, often underestimated, has a tensile strength rivaling mild steel, yet it's far lighter and more flexible, perfect for absorbing the stress of wind and foot traffic. Lai Bing's bridges used multiple parallel cables, some to form the walkway, others as handrails, all tensioned to distribute weight evenly. Historical accounts describe how the bridges could bear the load of dozens of people or pack animals at once, swaying gently but never breaking. And because bamboo resists rotting when treated with lime, a technique the Chinese perfected, these bridges endured for decades, even in Sichuan's humid climate. But the real brilliance lay in their impact. Suddenly, remote mountain villages could trade goods like salt, tea, and silk with the lowlands, fueling economic growth across the region. The bridges became lifelines for the Sichuanese, enabling farmers to transport crops, soldiers to mobilize quickly, and travelers to bypass deadly river crossings. One famous example is the Anlin Bridge, which spanned the Min River and became a critical link on the southern Silk Road. Without these crossings, the Han dynasty's control over its western frontier would have been far weaker. What's often overlooked is how Lai Bing's designs influenced later bridge building worldwide. While Europeans were still relying on rigid stone arches, Chinese engineers had already mastered the art of flexible spans, a principle that modern suspension bridges like the Golden Gate still use today. Archaeologists have even found Ming Dynasty paintings showing bamboo bridges with decks so sturdy they supported horse-drawn carts, proving their adaptability. Lai Bing's legacy wasn't just about connecting cliffs, it was about connecting possibilities. His bridges symbolized a mindset that refused to accept geographic limits, and as we cross this engineering milestone, we're stepping closer to another airborne wonder, ancient China's playful yet profound contribution to the skies. Now, as we leave the sturdy bamboo bridges behind, let's turn our gaze upward to another featherlight marvel, one that lifted ancient Chinese ingenuity literally into the skies. Centuries before the Montgolfier brothers' famous balloon flight in 18th century France, China had already mastered the principles of buoyant flight with a deceptively simple invention, the Kongming lantern. Born in the Three Kingdoms period around the 3rd century CE, these airborne wonders were named after the legendary strategist Zhuge Liang, whose honorific title was Kongming. Folklore claims he used these lanterns as a military tool, floating them above enemy camps at night to signal troop movements or even to fake divine omens, sowing confusion. Imagine the awe of soldiers seeing glowing orbs silently ascending into the darkness, an early form of psychological warfare wrapped in silk and bamboo. The science behind these lanterns was remarkably elegant. Constructed from oiled rice paper stretched over a bamboo frame, each lantern had a small wax or oil burner at its base. When lit, the flame heated the air inside, making it less dense than the surrounding atmosphere. This created lift, allowing the lantern to rise until the flame flickered out. Early designs could stay aloft for nearly an hour, drifting for miles on night breezes, a stunning achievement for an era without formal aerodynamics. But Kongming lanterns weren't just tools of war. By the time of the Mongol Empire in the 13th century, they'd become central to festivals like the Mid-Autumn celebration, where thousands would light lanterns to symbolize hope or guide ancestral spirits. Marco Polo reportedly witnessed these spectacles, describing skies ablaze with floating stars. This cultural shift showcased the lantern's dual nature, a weapon transformed into a symbol of unity and joy. What's often forgotten is how these lanterns laid groundwork for modern aviation. Their heating and lift principle mirrors today's hot air balloons, while their lightweight materials inspired early experiments with dirigibles. Even the Wright brothers studied Chinese sky lanterns as part of their research into controlled flight. And let's not overlook their role in meteorology. Centuries before weather balloons, Kongming lanterns gave scholars their first glimpses of wind patterns at altitude. From battlefield signals to festival skies, these glowing ancestors of the hot air balloon remind us that ancient China didn't just conquer land and sea, it reached for the heavens. And as we watch these paper lanterns fade into the night, another everyday object is waiting in the wings, one that would revolutionize personal hygiene across the globe. Now, shifting from the skies to something far more down to earth, literally inside our mouths, let's uncover another surprising innovation from ancient China, the toothbrush. While today we might take this humble tool for granted, its origins trace back over 1,000 years to the Tang Dynasty, where Chinese ingenuity gave the world its first bristled toothbrush. The Tang Dynasty, spanning from the year 619 to 907, was a golden age of culture and technology, and oral hygiene was no exception. Archaeologists have found evidence of toothbrushes made from bamboo handles with bristles from the stiff hairs of hogs, particularly from the necks of these animals. These early brushes were a stark improvement over the chew sticks or frayed twigs used in other parts of the world, like Europe, where people rubbed their teeth with rough cloths or even their fingers. The Chinese design was revolutionary because it introduced a dedicated tool for cleaning teeth, combining abrasiveness with precision. But why hog bristles? The coarse texture was effective at scrubbing away food particles and plaque, even if it might feel harsh by modern standards. Bamboo, on the other hand, was lightweight, durable, and resistant to moisture, ideal for daily use. These toothbrushes weren't just functional, they reflected a broader cultural emphasis on personal hygiene. Historical records suggest that Tang aristocrats even carried ornate versions, some with handles carved into intricate designs, signaling status as much as cleanliness. Compare this to medieval Europe, where oral care lagged behind. Many Europeans relied on chew sticks, twigs with ends chewed into brush-like fibers, or simply rinsed their mouths with water or wine. It wasn't until the 17th century that Europe adopted bristled toothbrushes, inspired by Chinese models brought back by traders. Even then, European versions often used horsehair, which was softer but less effective at cleaning. The Chinese design, with its hog bristles, remained the gold standard for centuries. Beyond the bristles, ancient Chinese dental care was surprisingly advanced. Texts from the Tang Dynasty mention early toothpaste recipes using ingredients like salt, herbal extracts, and even powdered bones to whiten teeth and freshen breath. Some wealthy individuals even employed toothpicks made from bronze or silver, showing a level of dental sophistication unmatched in much of the world at the time. The global journey of the toothbrush is a testament to how practical inventions transcend borders. By the 19th century, mass production made toothbrushes affordable worldwide, though modern nylon bristles eventually replaced animal hair. Yet the core design, a handle with bristles, remains unchanged, a quiet tribute to Tang Dynasty innovation. So the next time you brush your teeth, remember, you're participating in a ritual refined over millennia, one that began with hog hair and bamboo in ancient China. And as we move from personal hygiene to another everyday essential, prepare to explore an invention that transformed how we count, calculate, and conquer numbers. Now, turning from the tangible to the abstract, let's delve into one of ancient China's most enduring intellectual gifts to the world, the decimal system. While inventions like toothbrushes and kites transformed daily life, this mathematical breakthrough revolutionized how humanity calculates, trades, and even thinks about numbers. Its origins, etched onto oracle bones over 3,000 years ago, reveal a sophistication that would take other civilizations centuries to match. The Shang dynasty, flourishing between the years 1600 and 1046 before the Common Era, left behind a trove of oracle bones, tortoise shells, and animal scapulae inscribed with divination records. Astonishingly, these artifacts don't just tell fortunes, they contain the world's earliest evidence of a decimal system in action. Shang mathematicians grouped numbers in tens, using distinct symbols for units, tens, hundreds, and beyond. For example, the number 523 would be represented by combining symbols for 500, 2 tens, and 3 units, a system strikingly similar to what we use today. What made this system revolutionary? Compare it to Roman numerals, where the number 1987 would be written as MDCCCCLXXXVI, a cumbersome string of letters demanding complex addition and subtraction just to read. The Shang system, by contrast, was positional. The value of a digit depended on its place, just like modern numerals. This allowed for faster calculations, clearer record keeping, and eventually the development of advanced algebra and astronomy. But the decimal system's brilliance wasn't just in its logic, it was in its universality. By the Han Dynasty, Chinese mathematicians were using it to calculate planetary motions, tax revenues, and even the precise dimensions of architectural marvels like the Great Wall. Meanwhile, Europe clung to Roman numerals until the 12th century, when Fibonacci introduced the decimal system to the West after encountering it in North Africa, where it had spread via Arab traders who'd learned it from Indian scholars, who in turn had been influenced by Chinese innovations. The global adoption of the decimal system underscores how China's intellectual exports shaped civilizations far beyond its borders. Today, whether you're checking a grocery bill or programming a computer, you're relying on a Shang dynasty legacy. And as we move from numbers to another tool that streamlined everyday tasks, prepare to discover how ancient China mechanized calculation itself. Having explored the decimal system's intellectual revolution, let's shift gears to a seemingly simple invention that transformed warfare: the iron stirrup. While numbers reshaped minds, this unassuming device reshaped battlefields, turning horseback riders into nearly unstoppable forces. The earliest iron stirrups excavated in China date back to the Jin dynasty around the 4th century of the Common Era, found in tombs of military elites. Before their invention, riders clung to their horses with sheer leg strength, limiting their ability to wield weapons effectively. The stirrup changed everything. By providing a stable platform, it allowed warriors to stand, pivot, and strike with unprecedented force and precision. Picture a cavalryman charging at full speed, his feet anchored securely. Now he could swing a sword, fire arrows, or thrust a spear without fearing a fall. But the stirrup's impact went beyond individual combat. It revolutionized military strategy. Armies could now deploy heavily armored cavalry, known as cataphracts, whose weight and momentum could break enemy lines like a hammer through glass. This innovation spread westward, reaching Europe by the 8th century, where it became the backbone of medieval knights' dominance. The feudal system itself relied on stirrup-equipped knights as its military elite. Perhaps no empire exploited stirrups more ruthlessly than the Mongols. Under Genghis Khan, their horseback archers, each securely mounted thanks to stirrups, could ride circles around slower foes, raining arrows with lethal accuracy. Stirrups allowed them to fire in any direction, even backward while retreating, a tactic known as the Parthian shot. This mobility and stability made the Mongols nearly invincible in open combat, enabling history's largest contiguous land empire. The stirrup's legacy lingers in modern equestrian sports and mounted police tactics. Yet its greatest contribution was leveling the battlefield, giving civilizations with smaller populations, like the Mongols, a fighting chance against larger foes. As we'll see next, ancient China's ingenuity wasn't limited to warfare. It also crafted objects of beauty and status, like the folding fan. Shifting from the battlefield to the refined courts of ancient China, let's unfold the story of an invention that blended artistry with everyday elegance: the paper fan. Far more than just a tool to beat the heat, these folding marvels from the Zhou dynasty, dating back to between 1046 and 256 before the Common Era, became canvases for culture, power, and even diplomacy. Imagine the sweltering summers along the Yellow River, where silk and bamboo fans first offered relief to nobility. But it was the invention of the folding fan, light, portable, and endlessly customizable, that truly captured hearts. Crafted from delicate paper or silk stretched over bamboo ribs, these fans could snap open with a flick of the wrist, their surfaces adorned with calligraphy, landscapes, or poetry. They weren't just accessories, they were wearable art. Emperors and scholars wielded them as extensions of their intellect, often inscribing verses or philosophical musings to impress courtiers. A well-chosen fan could signal erudition, much like a tailored suit or luxury watch does today. The fan's journey didn't stop at China's borders. By the 8th century, Japanese diplomats and monks brought folding fans home, where they evolved into sensu symbols of status in Heian-era aristocracy. Japanese artisans elevated the craft, using gold leaf and intricate paintings of cherry blossoms. Centuries later, Portuguese traders introduced these fans to Europe, where they sparked a frenzy among Renaissance elites. Queen Elizabeth I of England was famously painted clutching one, her fan's ivory sticks inlaid with gemstones. Parisian workshops soon rivaled those in Kyoto and Suzhou, turning fans into must-have fashion statements. But the fan's practicality matched its prestige. Spy networks in Ming Dynasty China used them to pass hidden messages, their folds concealing tiny slips of paper. Theater performers relied on fans for dramatic flair. A sudden snap could punctuate a punchline or signal a character's hidden rage. Even martial arts adapted them. Iron-ribbed war fans could deflect blades in a pinch. Today, the legacy of Zhou dynasty fans flutters on. From flamenco dancers in Spain to kabuki actors in Tokyo, the rhythms of these ancient designs endure. They remind us that innovation isn't always about raw power. Sometimes it's the whisper-thin slice of art and function that leaves the deepest mark. And speaking of artistry, our next invention turned humble clay into a global obsession: porcelain, the white gold that dazzled empires. Now, moving from delicate artistry to mathematical precision, let's unravel the story of an invention that became the world's first calculator, the abacus. Born in China's Han Dynasty around 200 years before the Common Era, this deceptively simple tool, known as the suanpan, revolutionized computation for centuries. Picture a wooden frame strung with beads, each row meticulously divided 2 beads above the bar, each representing 5 and 5 below, each standing for 1. With a flick of the fingers, merchants could add, subtract, multiply, and even calculate square roots faster than most scribes could scratch numbers onto parchment. The abacus wasn't just a tool, it was the engine of ancient commerce. Tax collectors relied on it to tally grain shipments along the Grand Canal, while silk traders used it to negotiate prices in bustling markets from Chang'an to Samarkand. Its beauty lay in its universality. No language barrier could stop a skilled user from demonstrating that 2 + 2 = 4. By the Tang Dynasty, the suanpan had become so indispensable that textbooks like the arithmetic classic of the Gnomon and the circular paths included detailed instructions for solving problems using its beads. But here's what's truly astonishing. The abacus didn't just fade away with the rise of modern technology. In the 1950s, contests pitted abacus masters against early electronic calculators, and the abacus often won. Skilled operators could process long division faster than machines, thanks to muscle memory and mental visualization. Even today, some schools in Asia teach the abacus to sharpen students' mental math skills, proving that this 2,000-year-old invention still holds value in the age of supercomputers. The Suanpan's legacy echoes in unexpected places. Modern computer scientists credit its binary-like upper/lower bead system as a conceptual ancestor to digital computation. And if you've ever seen a toddler sliding beads on a counting toy, you're witnessing a descendant of Han Dynasty ingenuity. From balancing imperial ledgers to inspiring algorithms, the abacus reminds us that great innovation often lies not in complexity, but in elegant simplicity. And speaking of elegance, our next invention took flight not on beads, but on wind. Meet the bamboo dragonfly, a whimsical toy that would one day inspire the helicopters soaring above us. Now, let's shift our gaze from the grounded calculations of the abacus to the skies, where a playful invention from ancient China laid the groundwork for one of humanity's most daring dreams, flight. Meet the bamboo dragonfly, a deceptively simple toy that first whirred to life in the 4th century. Picture a slender bamboo stick topped with carefully angled blades, twisted between the palms and released, sending it spiraling upward with a gentle hum. It might have been a child's pastime, but this tiny wooden gadget held the seeds of aeronautical revolution. The magic of the bamboo dragonfly, or Zhutu Qingting, lay in its propeller-like blades. When spun rapidly, the curved wings sliced through the air, creating lift in a way that mirrored the principles of modern helicopter rotors. Fast forward over 1,000 years, and you'll find Leonardo da Vinci sketching his aerial screw in the 15th century, a design directly inspired by accounts of Chinese toys carried along the Silk Road. While Da Vinci's machine never left the drawing board, the physics behind it echoed the same ancient ingenuity. But here's where the story takes flight. In the 1930s, engineers studying aerodynamics realized that the bamboo dragonfly's design wasn't just charming, it was scientifically profound. The toy's rotating blades demonstrated the same forces that allow helicopters to hover and maneuver. Even the terminology reflects this lineage. The Chinese word for helicopter, zhishengji, translates to straight rising machine, a nod to the dragonfly's vertical ascent. What's truly remarkable is how this ancient toy foreshadowed modern technology. The bamboo dragonfly's blades operated on the same basic principles as today's rotor system's: variable pitch for control, centrifugal force for stability. During World War II, Allied pilots even carried miniature versions as survival tools, using them to signal rescue teams by launching them into the air. And if you've ever watched a maple seed spiral to the ground, you've seen nature's own version of this millennia-old invention at work. From the hands of 4th century children to the blueprints of aerospace engineers, the bamboo dragonfly's legacy spins on. It reminds us that sometimes the most groundbreaking ideas begin not in labs or workshops, but in moments of play. And as we'll see next, China's inventors didn't just reach for the skies, they also dug deep into the earth, crafting tools that would reshape warfare in ways no one could have imagined. Now, let's descend from the skies and into the depths of warfare, where ancient Chinese ingenuity took a darker but equally revolutionary turn. Hidden beneath the earth, a terrifying invention lurked, waiting to rewrite the rules of combat. Meet the underground sky-soaring thunder, the world's earliest known landmines devised during the 13th century. These weren't just crude explosives, they were carefully engineered traps, hollowed-out iron spheres packed with gunpowder and buried along enemy routes. When triggered, whether by pressure, a hidden fuse, or even a tripwire, they erupted with a force that sent shockwaves through the battlefield. The Ming dynasty perfected these devices during their brutal conflicts with the Mongols. Picture this: as Mongol cavalry charged across the plains, their horses would stumble upon what seemed like harmless terrain, only for the ground to explode beneath them. The psychological impact was as devastating as the physical. Soldiers dubbed the weapons Zhentian Lei, or earth-shattering thunder, a name that captured their terrifying power. What made these early landmines so innovative was their versatility. Some were designed to spray shrapnel, while others released toxic smoke, adding chemical warfare to their deadly repertoire. But here's where history forces us to pause. These inventions sparked one of the earliest ethical debates about weapons of mass destruction. Even in the 14th century, Chinese military strategists grappled with the morality of such indiscriminate tools. The philosopher-statesman Liu Jia openly criticized their use, arguing that devices which killed without distinction, soldier or civilian, crossed a moral line. Yet the Ming army continued deploying them, driven by the relentless pressure of Mongol invasions. The landmine's legacy is a paradox, a testament to human ingenuity, yet a chilling reminder of how innovation can amplify destruction. What's fascinating is how these ancient weapons foreshadowed modern warfare. The Ming's landmines operated on principles still used today: concealment, delayed detonation, and area denial. Archaeologists have even unearthed Ming-era manuals detailing their deployment, complete with diagrams of minefield patterns. And while modern landmines are far deadlier, the ethical questions they raise remain eerily unchanged. From the battlefields of the Mongol Wars to the minefields of the 21st century, this invention forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Progress in warfare often outpaces our moral frameworks. And as we'll see next, ancient China's innovations weren't confined to destruction. They also crafted tools of precision and beauty, like the world's oldest surviving engineering marvel. Now let's shift from the thunder of battlefields to the quiet serenity of rivers and lakes, where ancient China's ingenuity took a surprisingly leisurely turn. Picture a Song Dynasty angler standing by the water's edge, not just with a simple rod, but with a revolutionary tool that would transform fishing forever: the world's first fishing reel. Crafted between the 10th and 13th centuries, these early reels were marvels of precision, combining bamboo handles with silk lines and ingeniously designed spools. Unlike the crude hooks and handlines used elsewhere, this invention turned fishing from a test of patience into a skill of finesse. The Song Dynasty's reel and rod combo was more than just functional, it was elegant. Artisans carved the reels from durable woods, often decorating them with intricate motifs, while the silk lines offered strength and flexibility unmatched by hemp or horsehair. Here's what set it apart: the reel allowed anglers to cast farther, adjust line length effortlessly, and even tire out larger fish with controlled tension. It was a game-changer, especially for China's elite, who embraced fishing as both a sport and a meditation. Court paintings from the era show scholars by lotus-filled ponds, their reels symbolizing harmony between humanity and nature. But the real genius lay in the details. The silk lines, painstakingly woven and coated with lacquer for waterproofing, could withstand the pull of fish weighing over 20 pounds. Compare that to modern nylon lines and you'll see how ahead of its time this was. While today's materials are synthetic, the core principle remains identical: smooth line control. Even the reel's basic mechanism, with its rotating spool and hand crank, mirrors designs still used by anglers worldwide. This invention didn't just stay in China. Arab traders carried knowledge of the fishing reel to Persia, where it evolved into the winch used in medieval Europe. By the 15th century, English nobles were using modified versions, and by the 1800s, industrialization turned the reel into a global staple. What began as a Song Dynasty pastime became a universal tool, democratizing fishing from survival skill to beloved hobby. Yet beyond its mechanics, the fishing reel reflects something deeper: an ancient appreciation for balance. The Song Dynasty saw nature as a teacher and fishing as a way to cultivate patience and strategy. Today, when you cast a line with a modern reel, you're part of an unbroken tradition that began with silk and bamboo over 1,000 years ago. Next time you feel the tug of a fish, remember, you're connected to an innovation that made leisure fishing possible, proving that even the simplest pleasures can have revolutionary roots. And speaking of revolutions, our next invention bridges art and engineering, a bridge so advanced it stood unwavering for 14 centuries. As we move from the tranquil waters of fishing to the enduring strength of stone, let's marvel at an architectural masterpiece that has defied time and tremors. The Zhejiu Bridge, built in the 7th century by the brilliant engineer Lai Chun, isn't just the world's oldest open spandrel arch bridge. It's a testament to ancient China's unparalleled understanding of balance and resilience. Stretching gracefully over the Zhao River in Hebei province, this bridge has weathered earthquakes, floods, and over 1,400 years of history, all without a single major repair. What makes the Zhejiu Bridge so revolutionary is its segmental arch design. Unlike the semicircular arches favored by the Romans, Lai Chun's bridge uses a flatter, more efficient curve. This subtle innovation distributed weight more evenly, reducing stress on the structure while allowing boats to pass beneath with ease. The bridge's arch isn't a single solid piece but a series of interlocking stone segments, held together by nothing more than precise craftsmanship and the force of gravity. No mortar, no nails, just pure engineering genius, but the real secret to its longevity lies in its open spandrel design. The bridge's sides feature small arches carved into the spandrels, those triangular spaces between the main arch and the deck. These aren't just decorative, they lighten the bridge's load and allow floodwaters to rush through during heavy rains, preventing catastrophic pressure buildup. Modern engineers still study this feature, as it's remarkably similar to the shock-absorbing techniques used in today's earthquake-resistant buildings. Lai Chun's foresight didn't stop there. The bridge's deck curves slightly upward in the center, a technique called camber, which helps disperse lateral forces during seismic activity. The stone slabs fit together like a puzzle, with dovetail joints and iron cramps hidden beneath the surface to keep them aligned during tremors. Even the choice of local limestone, dense yet flexible, was deliberate, allowing the bridge to sway slightly without cracking. The Zhejiu Bridge's influence stretches far beyond China. Its principles inspired medieval European bridge builders, and modern civil engineers continue to borrow from its design. In 2008, a team from Princeton University used computer models to confirm what ancient builders knew instinctively: the bridge's structure dissipates energy so effectively that it could survive a quake measuring 7.5 on the Richter scale. Beyond its technical brilliance, the bridge embodies a philosophical ideal. To the Chinese, a bridge wasn't just a crossing, it was a symbol of harmony between humanity and nature. The Zhejiu Bridge, with its graceful arches mirroring the surrounding hills, stands as a quiet reminder that the most enduring innovations aren't those that conquer natural forces, but those that work with them. As we prepare to explore our final invention, consider this. While empires rose and fell and technologies came and went, Lai Chun's bridge remained. It's a lesson in humility, proof that sometimes the ancient world's solutions are still the wisest. Now, let's step into the realm of timekeeping, where ancient China's ingenuity gave the world its most precise mechanical marvel. Imagine a towering structure nearly 40 feet tall, crowned with rotating armillary spheres and animated figurines, a celestial symphony in motion. This was Su Song's astronomical clock tower, built in the 11th century, a masterpiece that didn't just tell time but mapped the heavens with staggering accuracy. At the heart of this invention was the escapement mechanism, a revolutionary device that regulated the clock's movement with precision unseen in the medieval world. Unlike European water clocks, which flowed unevenly, or sundials bound by sunlight, Su Song's design used a series of interconnected gears and a water-powered wheel to release energy in controlled bursts. This innovation ensured the clock's hands moved at a consistent rate, losing less than a minute per day, an achievement unmatched in Europe until the pendulum clocks of the 17th century. The clock tower was more than a timekeeper. Its top tier housed a rotating celestial globe displaying stars and planets in real time, while the middle tier featured puppets that chimed bells and struck drums to mark the hours. Below, a carved jade tablet recorded seasonal changes, aligning with the ancient Chinese lunar calendar. Every detail served a purpose, blending science, art, and governance. Emperors relied on it to schedule rituals, farmers used it to plant crops, and astronomers studied its celestial models to predict eclipses. What set Su Song's clock apart was its modular design. Each component could be repaired or replaced without dismantling the entire structure, a concept far ahead of its time. The water wheel, for instance, had 36 scoops that filled and emptied in perfect rhythm, driving the escapement with hydraulic precision. Modern engineers have recreated this mechanism using historical texts confirming its efficiency, even by today's standards. It's a marvel of energy transfer. Europe's earliest mechanical clocks, introduced 2 centuries later, paled in comparison. They relied on crude verge and foliate mechanisms, often losing hours each day. Meanwhile, Su Song's tower stood as a testament to systematic observation. His team spent years meticulously recording celestial movements, ensuring the clock's models mirrored the skies. This empirical approach echoed the Song Dynasty's golden age of science, where innovation thrived under imperial patronage. Yet the clock's legacy is bittersweet. When the Jurchen invaders sacked the Song capital in the 12th century, the tower was dismantled and its secrets nearly lost. Thankfully, Su Song's detailed manuscripts survived, preserving blueprints that still inspire horologists today. In the 21st century, replicas have been built in museums worldwide, proving that his vision transcended time itself. As we close our journey through these 25 inventions, reflect on this. Su Song's clock wasn't just a machine. It was a bridge between earth and sky, a reminder that humanity's quest to measure time is ultimately a quest to understand our place in the universe. From paper to gunpowder, kites to clocks, ancient China's gifts to the world weren't just tools. They were revolutions disguised in simplicity, waiting to unfold across centuries. Now, as we bring our journey through these 25 groundbreaking inventions to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on their extraordinary impact. From the humble yet revolutionary paper that transformed communication across continents, to the explosive power of gunpowder that reshaped warfare and celebration alike, ancient China's innovations didn't just change their own society, they altered the course of human history. Think about the compass guiding explorers to uncharted lands, or porcelain, prized as white gold in royal courts from Europe to the Middle East. These weren't just clever gadgets, they were the building blocks of modernity, each one a testament to human curiosity and ingenuity. What's truly remarkable is how many of these inventions remain relevant today. The decimal system simplified mathematics in ways we still rely on, while the abacus laid the foundation for early computing. Suspension bridges, inspired by Lai Bing's bamboo cable designs, continue to span rivers and gorges with their earthquake-resistant engineering. Even the kite, once a military signaling tool, now soars in skies worldwide as a symbol of creativity and play. Everywhere you look, echoes of ancient China's brilliance persist in our daily lives, often unnoticed but deeply woven into the fabric of progress. But beyond their practical uses, these inventions tell a story of cultural exchange. Silk traveled the Silk Road, linking east and west in a web of trade and diplomacy. Printing spread knowledge far beyond imperial libraries, democratizing learning centuries before the internet. And let's not forget the paper fan, a blend of artistry and function that became a global fashion statement. These weren't just tools, they were bridges between civilizations, proving that innovation knows no borders. So, which of these 25 inventions surprised you the most? Was it the seismoscope, predicting earthquakes over a millennium before modern science? Or perhaps the mechanical clock, keeping time with celestial precision while Europe still relied on sundials? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear which discoveries left you in awe. And if you've enjoyed unraveling these historical mysteries with us, don't miss out on more deep dives into the past. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to join us as we uncover more hidden chapters of human ingenuity. After all, history isn't just about looking back. It's about discovering the threads that connect us all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure.